And welcome everybody to another episode of In Stereo with Mike and Rick. I'm Mike Bovaird.
And I'm Rick Miller.
And we're talking all things audio. Welcome, guys. Today our special guest is David Sheriff and Darren Myers from Parasound. Very excited to have you guys on board. You're both the I'll say the fresh new faces of Parasound, and we're quite interested in hearing how your first year and a half with the company has gone, and what kind of developments you guys see for the future. So again, welcome, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
No
and
problem.
We're actually at 2 years and 2 days.
2 years and 2 days.
2
Man,
plus 2.
so much for my research. Yeah.
We'll see what kind of other questions you get.
So, David, one of the questions I wanted to start out with was, what was the motivating factors for you purchasing Parasound?
Okay, so the motivating factor really was I was looking for a company in an industry that I thought I could bring value to.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked for an owner who'd built a great brand, and Richard had with Parasound. It was not specifically in the audio industry because I knew I could get experts such as Darren who could augment me in the areas that I was not as versed in and teach me. He spent a lot of time doing that. Mm-hmm. But really, when I looked at Parasound, it was a great brand that I knew, and Richard knew the company could run a lot better, a lot smoother, especially with the changing conditions. Back in the 2000s, there were probably 5 times as many audio dealers as there are now, and it's the whole reflection has changed.
Right.
And as we move forward and the moving forward, we had to convert to a different kind of model. So I saw that, and I saw the industry of, let's call it underfunded or publicly traded companies that were really reactive in the way they were running their companies, not having a long-term game plan. So
True.
To me, that really set up a great thing of, because building a brand is the hardest part. And, Richard having one already to say, how do I keep the elements of what he did in a different way, such as even customer service. Parasound used to answer the phone. Parasound answered the phone all the time and handled all the support. What that did is it actually diminished it sounded great, but it diminished the dealer's impact. So people didn't need to go to dealers. They'd go to cheap stuff instead of the value that dealers can really bring. So what we've done is we have a great support system now, but it's online. So just those are the kinds of things that I knew I could change. I knew I could change the supply chain, shore things up, and I knew I could develop differently with more purpose and develop in the United States, which is what Darren leads up.
Very good. Very one of the most interesting calls I've ever had in the audio world was my first call with you, because it was like a breath of fresh air. Speaking with you and your business background and your understanding of the audio world, your approach to the audio world was so refreshing. I cannot even begin to tell you how unique it was for me, because like you, I came from a different world. I came from the Fortune 100 world of implementing SAP, and I was used to dealing with the CIO and the CTO of Coca-Cola and Bristol Myers and AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals and Nike and big companies. And, I came from that world for 22 years. I was in that world and ran, $10 million to $100 million projects of implementing SAP over a large number of years. And it was just a different environment, change management issues, dealing with, training and development issues and logistics. And it was completely different. Then I come into the audio world, and it was like very different. The business mindsets, some of the business decisions that you see, it was flabbergasting, to say the least, for me, and still is to this day. I can't tell you the number of companies I talk to, and you talk about marketing strategies, and they're like, "Oh, internet bad. Internet is a bad thing. We don't want internet," you know. And they've come a long way, I think, in the last 10 years that I've seen, since I really got into selling and distributing high-end audio. But they have a long way to go from a business standpoint. So most of them are still mom and pop shops, and the guy that founded the business is also the guy that's designing the amplifiers, and the guy that's building the amplifiers, and the guy that's answering the phone, and the guy that's shipping the. I mean, it really is, you know, very small organizations. They're I think they are hobbyists, essentially, or they're passionate about audio, but they're not good business people. They're not fundamentally good business people. You know, one of the things that I see, and I don't want to take over the whole interview, but they have a wealth of, you know, knowledge of the market that they don't use, and that is the dealer network. Ask the dealers what the customers are asking for. Ask the dealers what they think the market needs, rather than just sitting in a room and dreaming up something and then going to market with it. You know, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with manufacturers that say, "Here's our new preamp. Isn't it great? It's $20,000. Yes, it is. It has no remote. It will not sell." And they're like, "But a remote degrades the sound." Yeah, okay. Customers don't care. They are not going to get off their fat asses and change the volume, okay? It's not going to happen in America. Sorry, won't happen. So we have these conversations all the time. They don't understand the market. They get caught into, I just had this one with a DAC manufacturer that builds tube DACs. It's not Lampezator, it's not Aqua, it's a small one with a lot of numbers and letters in their name. And I said, your DAC doesn't do above 2496 and it doesn't do DSD. It's a dud. It will not sell. And it will not sell in America because people are downloading 24 or 192 files. They are downloading larger files. They do care about DSD. Now, whether 99% of their listening is not of those formats and that high of a bit rate and frequency is irrelevant. Your competitors have it and they want all the boxes checked. If they're going to purchase your product, they want to check all the boxes. They don't want to leave any boxes unchecked. Completely oblivious. But you know, we can build a better sounding DAC that only does Redbook or only does up to 2496 PCM. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It won't sell because people say, well, it doesn't do DSD. It doesn't do above 2496 and they won't buy it. So it's amazing that they don't do more market research. And I understand the ultimate drive for perfection in engineering and sound. I get it, but you can either build a product that is engineered perfectly, or you can build one that will be engineered very well and sell. So you've got two different options there. One that's going to be perfect, but it won't sell, or one that'll be slightly less than perfect in your eyes and will sell. So that's my 2 cents. But I don't know. What do you see? What do you see in the market?
Actually, I'll start, but I'm going to hand that over to Darren because he's much more in tune as it goes forward.
Right.
One of the things that we did from your previous question is because we're well funded, we have no debt. Mm-hmm. When Darren came on board, we had lots of talks ahead of time for alignment. And him and I've never met a person that I was so in alignment with of long-term objectives, because especially in the audio world, things for what we supply, they don't change every day. Mm-hmm. We don't need to, and you know, Parasound is not trying to build a new item or a slight variation every single year, like an iPhone that gets more sales. We're not mm-hmm. in that position where we need to do that. His big thing was, you got to let me do things right. If we're going to do it, you're going to do things right with the knowledge of what we need. But also there is a balance. You know, you gave option A and B. I think we can do both. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, and that's really where I kind of listen to Darren and what he looks at, where we talk about those things. And there are things he will not compromise on, but he has a big picture. We have lots of talks about how to make both A and B work at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, I'll maybe your design approach as we go through it, and making sure we do things right. He made me promise, don't make me release something early. Sonos.
Yeah, famous example.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And it may delay things, and we're not as fast as we want to be, but when it comes out, it's going to be right, and it's going to be awesome. So, Darren, if you could talk about your concepts, you're better to talk about, because he's really the brains behind the final product.
Darren, what is some of your design philosophies, and when you're developing a new product, what are you thinking about, ultimately?
Well, that audio is, when you can't really view audio in the isolation of just sound quality, because the whole experience is much more than that. It's a social experience where we get to enjoy, wonderful sound with loved ones and friends, maybe acquaintances that you want to, show off that experience for the first time and show them, what high-end audio is really about. It's also about your environment, how you design your listening room or listening area. Maybe it's in a living room or a shared room. Down to the way that you have your lighting and you set your mood, or the wine that you're sharing with your loved one or friend. I really think that companies who are viewing it in the point of, we're not going to, from a perspective of not having a remote to not degrade sound quality, is a huge mistake of deteriorating all the support and all the substance that really makes the sound quality even worth it. So I think that as an industry, we really need to be moving towards making products that conform to people's expectations of how they integrate with their lifestyle, how they integrate with streaming applications, and modern control integration with smartphones and other smart devices and networks. And to say that that's going to compromise the audio quality, I think is just a symptom of some of the problems with this industry. Like, for instance, I'm not sure what example that was as far as the remote affecting sound quality, but something like that sounds like more of a design issue, and it's something that can live together, and even beyond that, you can have network integrated audio and not compromise sound quality either. So I think some of the religious views that these companies have hurt them in the long run, and customers who decide to go down a route, they're really subtracting from their overall experience. So I think that's
a good point.
Firstly, one of my large beliefs is just to make sure that the product can integrate proper lifestyle, as far as the way that it integrates to with control, and have the latest integration. So that's been something that's really important. And then, of course, audio quality is very important. I have gone through a large journey of starting out when I was younger, designing tube amplifiers and being obsessed with Class A amplifiers, like the topology, and then getting into understanding that with engineering, we can solve issues to push audio technology forward. And that got me into designing Class D, like nonlinear amplifiers, for a company called Class A Audio and Bowers and Wilkins, and that's kind of how I started my career. And so I'm a true believer that nonlinear amplifiers, Class D amplifiers, can be pushed to have the same sound quality, and in some ways even outperform, Class A amplifiers. And so I'm just saying that because it shows that, I really want to be a forward thinker, and I don't want to be scared of modern technology. And I believe that, those technologies are more primed than ever to take us into the future.
That's a very interesting point. Darren, how do you think that we are going to get around the large market objection to Class D amplifiers? I mean, we've heard great ones,
Yes.
AGD or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that what they're called?
Yeah.
AGD. Unbelievable sounding Class D amplifiers. I've gone out and told everybody publicly, I don't sell it. I'm just telling them they sound really good. But I think the general market acceptance to Class D is not there. There is a manufacturer that has found a little bit of a niche building small Class A amplifiers, or maybe they're AB, but I think they're Class A. Remember the little ones we had in the store for evaluation, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they have a certain appeal to the market because, old guys not always want to deal with big, heavy amplifiers, right? So maybe there's an opportunity there. But and we do sell some Class D amplifiers, but we do get a lot of pushback from the audiophile community. However, in the non-audiophile community, people that don't know Class D from Class A, they're delighted with a Class D amplifier in their quote unquote lifestyle environment. So whether we can move the thinking in the audio world to accept Class D remains to be seen. I know that one prominent, very tall, skinny developer, builder I think he's in Colorado too, Jeff Rowland, has pretty much abandoned Class D. And, and they just told me it doesn't sell. Like they gave up. That was the understanding. Now I could be wrong. They may have changed their mind. This was about a year or two ago in a conversation, and they had gone back to Class AB amplifiers because they had tried for years to convince people that Class D would sound good and it was better all around for various reasons, but the market acceptance wasn't there. So Darren, the question is, how do we overcome that market acceptance? Now, there's certainly a large group of people that are, very budget conscious, that are happy.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They're like $2,500 or less is their budget, and the Class D they're very happy with. But if somebody is shopping, 10,000, 15,000, somewhere in there, that Class D is a much harder conversation to have with them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your thoughts?
So I think that whenever you're dealing with an adoption of a new technology, it can take a very long time to transition everybody and get everybody on board. I mean, one example is analog versus digital sources. Where it took for as far as the really high end audiophile sense, it took a long time for people to get fully on board to digital. I mean, that has taken many decades actually, to the point now where even the past 5 to 10 years, there's been such a leap in digital performance of DACs and digital sources that now people have just almost given up the argument. Vinyl's cool. Vinyl's awesome. It can sound great, but digital, given a latest ultra reference recording, it does give you an experience that is almost unmatched, and not many people will argue that now. And there's arguments for analog too. So, but it's just we've now onboarded most people onto high res digital sources, and it took a very long time to do that. So with Class D, it may be the same thing that happens. I think there are other factors at play too. When people spend, say, $20,000 on an amplifier, They want it to be heavy. They want it to have beautiful aluminum work, you know. And with Class D, they don't have that. So I go back to, you know, that what Class D opens up is the ability to integrate systems now. So, you know, maybe the idea of having a separate amplifier, you know, is not as, you know, you can integrate now those systems into larger systems, and offer integrated amplifiers or speakers that have all the power built into them. And so Class D opens up a whole new world of integration. And if you're looking for a 200-pound amplifier, yeah, Class D won't, you know, I don't think make you happy in that regard. But sound-wise, if we're just focused on performance and sound, not only do I believe that Class D is going to be able to get there, but I believe that, you know, it's going to be able to offer the ability to downsize equipment, integrate equipment, and therefore make more people happy by allowing for those systems to be integrated in rooms and environments that large systems can't or are not allowed to be in. So I think that for the ultra high-end section of the market, I agree with you. I don't think Class D is there, and I don't really know what solutions will be there. Maybe manufacturers can just, you know, put a bunch of weight in aluminum on it, and, you know, but I have to say that that's not really one of my design philosophies. I you know, that's more luxury and going for the, you know, the bling and the beauty, but I'm really there for the performance and also the integration and making audio equipment practical. And Class D does that more than almost any other technology other than digital sources. You know, it promotes being practical, and I think we need that more. We need to have audio around us, and we need to have, you know, high performance audio be more practical.
That's a good point. Darren, let me ask you a question. When you it's more about the you know, this is a topic that comes up all the time, the, you know, the meter readers versus the golden ears.
Yeah.
Have you ever built a product, and I'd be curious, have you ever built a product that you said, my God, this thing measures perfectly, but it didn't sound good to your ears?
You know, I've been able to, in the past, there has been some times when I've designed something and it measured really well, and I listened to it and I was not happy with what I heard. And now looking back at it, and I would eventually find some measurement that actually was what I was hearing.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, so I've been able to have a better idea. You know, I over the years learned kind of you know, what really makes something sound, you know, good subjectively and have great measurements. And then also some of the psychology almost around having equipment that is, you know, more transparent, and that there is another layer above just having really clinical audio gear that just measures all perfect. And the art of putting a system together, you know, the art of being able to integrate speakers correctly into a room and make sure that room doesn't have any glaring, you know, massive problems that a, you know, really warm tube amplifier would kind of cover up. So, you know, when you kind of view it on that level of system integration, you know, that's where it starts to become a lot more clear. And then also, what is the end desired result from the listener? I mean, if all they're listening to is, you know, lo-fi recordings, you know, from the 1960s and 70s, which is, you know, some of the, I mean, amazing music, right? But it's not all of it's recorded to the same degree as, you know, really well recorded material today. And so you may need some sweeteners, or you may need some lower resolution kind of gear in there. So I think that there are ways of designing equipment and designing signal paths that are, really beautiful sounding, great measuring, and don't really exacerbate, any sort of like horrible recording quality, that are just, neutral.
Okay. Conversely, have you ever designed something that measured terrible but actually sounded good to you?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate the honesty. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, one of those just being, triode preamplifiers and power amplifiers that have pretty horrible THD and IMT performance. They don't have any feedback or anything, and they actually sound like surprisingly transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and you realize that it has more to do with at that point, some of the part quality in the signal path and the output transformers and all of that.
Right.
But what's interesting is zero feedback done really, really well is closer to really high feedback done really, really well.
Interesting. Interesting.
And then in between, when you get like lower feedback that's not done so well, that's actually some of the most colored signal paths that you can listen to, because they have, like TIM, transient intermodulation distortion, because the signal path the feedback loop is not fast enough to actually fix the transients and all of that. So the problem is that whether you design a circuit with zero feedback or you design a circuit with a lot of feedback, there are ways to really mess all of that up.
Yes. Dan D'Agostino talked a lot about the use of feedback. What is your personal opinion and belief in the use of feedback?
My belief is that feedback in general is a great thing.
Okay.
It is a corrective mechanism to bring linearity to the circuit. I think that there are elements in which need to be in alignment, and it needs to be done correctly, which is that you must have a wide open loop bandwidth to the circuit, so that the feedback is applied across the audio spectrum at the same amount. So that's the ideal circuit for me, is that essentially the overall loop gain that's applied to the circuit is the same at 20 kilohertz as 20 hertz.
Okay.
And so when you look at the THD performance, that it's basically flat versus frequency. And, find me an engineer that would disagree with that, because you want to treat every frequency exactly the same.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Could I jump in on the A versus B conversation?
Yes.
I just have a different spin on it.
Okay.
I actually come from, when we talked at the beginning, I come from the same world you do, consulting.
Yeah. Right.
Smaller company, consulting. And I've always been a computer guy. And when you look about A versus D and what some of the things Darren hinted at, I look at the computer world and the genesis of how people have responded to computers over time versus the audio world. And it started with basically big mainframes, and then because that was all technology allowed you to do.
Right.
And then you started getting the PC,
the client server environment. Yep.
Yeah. And you get to individual PCs, and so the cycle went, it went the other direction. And then you're going back now to cloud-based, which is actually back to what we used to be, because the technology, the internet and speed is there. So as things get introduced, it changes over time.
Yes.
And when it does change, like the A versus D, I do think there will be people who love mainframes no matter what, or PCs no matter what. And we do know there's going to be people who want Class A. Our A1, the JCA 100 that we just put out was product of Editor's Choice of the Year, one of the finalists for Stereophile. And we believe, Class A is still there, and it will be there. The M250, the JC M250 was built for the old guy like me who doesn't want to lug them around. That's what I use because they're only 48 pounds a piece, but they're
Right.
still
Yeah.
JC1 Plus circuitry,
Right.
just a little less power, but it powers almost any speaker.
Right.
But the journey, what we as it goes through, one of the things we're trying to look for the future, and we think audio is kind of in the same thing. It started with a centralized system, a stereo system, and then it got to separates because they could be better.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're seeing space, just like the iPhone did. I remember the time I missed it back in 2009. I saw iTouch. And I'm like, iTouch versus iPhone. I'm like, why would anyone never buy an iPhone? What a waste of time.
Right.
I'll get my kids the iTouch.
Right.
A year later, Apple was worth whatever, a couple of years later, $1 trillion. So I missed that. But the phone is really such a difference. And when Darren talked about interactions, 50% of our traffic now on the website is people on their phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for space, my partner Lisa doesn't even have a computer. She only uses her phone.
Me too. Me too. I don't have a computer.
Yeah. And though we're seeing that genesis back to because the technology's there. What Class D really offers also is the ability to do integrateds again. Really, and put some phenomenal both performance and experience and interaction that you don't really can do with a Class A amp. You can't have all of that. So we're seeing it go back down small. They don't want all that space taken up. We'll still have those people who want the big Class A's. We know that.
Absolutely.
But more and more people and the younger crowd, when we look at demographics, the people on their phones are the audiophiles that are starting now.
Yes.
And they want small, and they live in big cities. They don't have the space for a full Class A setup.
100% agree. 100%. There's definitely a demographic shift going on. And the younger audience is definitely more receptive to that fully integrated Class D amplifier.
Oh, yeah. Or just everything all in one box.
All in one box. Agreed.
Yeah.
Features.
We just need to expand the footprint. The problem in the audio industry, and they've said it, is they haven't reached out to those people who don't call themselves an audiophile. We were talking about the fires in Malibu. My home, luckily, is safe right now.
Good.
I met quite a few people in the audio industry, music industry. You'd be shocked how many don't even know what 2-channel is.
Agreed.
There are musicians who don't know 2-channel. They know studio, pro audio, but they've never even heard about it. And their eyes open up. They go, oh yeah, I remember hearing that once. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So we need to expand the people, because there are so many audiophile level people out there who love music. They just don't know how to do it, or the cost and size has been prohibitive that they can't get it in their living spaces.
Right.
Absolutely true.
And I want to add that, right now, and it's certainly in that zone where people have different opinions right now, but just from my perspective and what I've experienced so far is that we have not gotten to the point where Class D can replace high performance A, B, and A. I could give some subjective experiences that I have, but I can also make the argument that objectively, they have not reached that point as well. If you look at the bandwidths, if you look at square waves through Class D's versus really high performance Class AB. Class AB is light years ahead of it. So I don't believe. I think that we've come a long way. I think that Purify amplifiers are probably a pretty massive leap towards that goal, but I don't believe that we're there yet. I don't know how confident I would be in finding a Class D, for instance, that could outperform, say, a JC1 or a JCA 100. It's still not there, but I do believe in the future will come a time when we finally, get that objective performance to be similar or even better.
That's a good point. Can we, David, can you talk a little bit about the JCA 100? It's kind of like a best kept secret in the world of audio.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it is. Actually, Darren knows more of the technical side, but what we have is we looked at some of the issues with the JC1 Plus. Greg Weaver just did a refresh of a 4-year thing of hey, you reviewed it 4 years ago. What do you think about it now?
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, the JC1 Plus compared to everything. It's still a phenomenal amp, still recommended by, but there are people who want to push Class A more. And we looked at it, and they've been toying with it before I took over Parasound, of just saying, what if we made it, what if we bias it just to make it pure Class A?
Mm-hmm.
So what you have is a modified JC1 Plus, basically, that is tailored to 100 watts of pure Class A, which will drive just about anything.
Yep.
It's some people with extremely demanding speakers couldn't do it, but it's more than just the A100. It was meant to be a tribute, because we know, you've got A class and heavy mono blocks, and then you've got a subset of people who really want pure Class A all the time and willing to spend that.
Right.
Part of the design of it and the decision was, there have been some phenomenal designers throughout the ages who brought incredible joy and love of music to our customers and across all products. They are not the headliner in those companies, and rarely, in my mind, were they ever able to be compensated to the amount that they really produced.
Right.
And so part of the JCA 100 was, how do we do a tribute edition? So we came up with the idea that says it's a different phase. We went different transformer, some electronics change, some biasing changing inside, different faceplate. I think I like the look of it, but it's routed out, a heavier duty with the serialization. So if your favorite number, if you're a Michael Jordan fan, you could get A023, and it's A023L and A023R, and it's yours.
Got it.
And so you have the only ones in existence, but a substantial chunk of those sales goes back to John. John Curl has just been a mainstay and provided, uncountless hours or hundreds of thousands of hours to people listening to his stuff. And what we did is hope to give back something on this that, and he could see some rewards for all the stuff that he's done for everybody.
That's great. That's a wonderful thing you're doing. That's absolutely excellent. Really, really good. And that's a good segue to Rick. You are good friends with John.
Yeah, I've known John for over 30 years.
Wow. Yeah. And what can you tell us about him that some folks here wouldn't know?
Well, he pretty much eats, sleeps, thinks about audio all the time. He's always thinking about it. He'll look at it from different ways that you would think about. He'll tell me, you should watch this Japanese movie and you'll learn how to be a better designer. And he told me that 30 years ago. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's not always what you think it is. He goes, everybody in the movie thinks it's going this way and it's really over here. So
right.
He says, think upside down. Don't always take the route that everybody else has taken, and, use the most linear parts possible. And, John is, he's a one of a kind. He's a great guy. He's designed some of the most, iconic circuits of all time, the complementary differential JFET input. I think everybody's using that now. And, I'm glad that you're doing a product that will help him, because, he deserves it, richly deserves it. He's one of the last icons left. And, I hope that he continues to design things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he is free with his knowledge. He's got a love of that design. The other thing, unfortunately, in the past is a lot of manufacturers have taken his designs, and you've actually it's rare that you've ever heard John's best, because what happens is he designs and he has certain components. He's very, very particular about certain, especially the FETs and JFETs that he uses.
Yes.
And then people are like, well, we just use this other one instead because it's easier to find or cheaper. So we cheaped it out. And it says it's the same, but it's not. And it doesn't get, when he listens to it, it's like, it's not that's not what I designed. I told you exactly what to do, and you used something different. And there is a huge difference in components that he pushes and he is emphatic about. And that's one of the things we're bringing back of control to our factories to make sure we are getting what John expected it to be.
Yeah, he doesn't like to compromise quality,
Not at all.
Yeah. So a lot of great things about John. And like I said, hopefully he's going to keep designing things, come up with new things. But, he's been a great friend and a great guy to talk to. I've talked to him for hours, 20, 30 years ago. And he's explaining things that are just over my head, but I'm trying to grasp them, as I've gotten older, I've learned, some of the things that he's talked about. But yeah, I mean, I really can't think of anybody that's, better to work with Darren and work with the team, than John, because he's not stuck in the past. He's thinking about things. I mean, he's told me he's tried to come up with digital ideas and doing digital amps, but he says it's just not there yet, so he's sticking to things that have worked in the past and, still always be thinking about new things.
Yeah, but one thing that is really unique about John is that he's actually a physicist. So John can tell you about, how JFETs are actually created and, down to the die level of how the substrates are made. And, it was through that deep understanding, in the early days of JFETs where he was really able to implement them to, better than anybody else, because he really understood the device before I think the mainstream, engineers really kind of understood how to implement them and the advantages. And I also really love how John, and you alluded to this as well, but I love how he's really an out of box thinker. Like he'll consider things that maybe mainstream science may reject at first thought, or something that may not be. An engineer would say, no, there's no way I'm even going down that thought process because what I've learned from the textbooks say that it's not possible. And I think that's a dangerous route to go in. And I think science should always question itself. And I think the physicists in him, because they're so used to doing that, it makes him bring that to audio, and he's, really questioning a lot of things. And I think that's actually where, a lot of innovation is born, is in that thought process.
That's true.
So I appreciate that.
I agree. I know that he's talked about quantum physics, things that are really high level, and, some designers wouldn't even bother with that, but he's open to new ideas. I mean, if you said, well, I'm going to send you this newest tweak or this newest thing to try, I mean, he would try it. You know? He wouldn't say, oh, that's a bunch of crap, I'm not going to do that. He's open to a lot of things. When I did some work in the early 90s about rectifier diodes and the noise they produce, I wrote an article about that was published, and he got on board with it, and he integrated them into his products.
That's cool.
He just didn't brush me aside and say, well, I know I'm the engineer here,
right.
Get out of the way.
Right.
So one thing about John is he loves a good pastrami sandwich.
Okay.
When we were in San Francisco, we used to every few weeks go out and grab lunch, and he would always have a piece of paper with a circuit on it. And talk to me about it and teach me about it. But you talked about his open-mindedness, but it's pretty awesome because John likes challenging things. He does. And you bring something up, but what he would do is brainstorm as he's he may start by saying that would never work, and then in about 30 seconds he starts filtering in, but maybe it could work, and here's what it would do, and he'd go off the path to say, how can I solve this?
Right.
So he just is such a great mind for those kinds of things. And when you take the time to listen to him, I think there's some people who argue with John, and like me, he can get bullhead. If you decide just to argue and not listen, that conversation doesn't always go the best. When you listen a little bit, you can learn a lot. And I have both Darren and he have taught me so much about audio in a very short amount of time because they do know it so well, but they also can talk circuitry in English, which is also part of it. I don't have to be an electrical engineer to understand why, because they'll explain, here's what it is. Okay, that went way over your head. Now I'll tell you about what it's really doing on an English level. And I like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
David, I want to backtrack a little bit. Before you purchased Parasound, can you kind of give us what you were doing previously?
Well, after I got out of the Air Force, I went into manufacturing in a family business, ran that for about 7 years. Then we sold that, and I needed to know what else I was going to do, and I got into ERP, for small Infor Visual.
Okay.
And started selling that, working on the customer base first. I was not the most successful sales rep the first year because we did not have a great customer base. Okay. We had some bad customers, some great customers that weren't necessarily treated very well. And so what I did is, as the rep, is put things in place to get that going. And by the second year, things were kicking in out of Chicago. I ended up buying that company in 2005. And we did implementations for about 1,000 clients. Okay. One of the reasons when you asked about Parasound is I actually did consulting for one of Parasound's, I wouldn't say direct competitors, but let's say a tube amp manufacturer.
Okay.
And got to understand some of the challenges of the business side of this world.
Okay.
And some of the bad practices of what they had. So I spent a lot of time on automation, on understanding what's really important and what's providing value back, not just for the company, but for the consumer. For instance, if we answer the phone all the time and can take calls from anyone for any length of time, you're adding significant cost to your company. That's benefiting a few. Yeah. But those great customers end up paying for it because you still got to make the money somehow. You got to put that into the cost.
Right.
And there are people who would abuse that, who would want to spend 5 or 6 hours on the phone talking about nothing.
Yeah,
and we get that.
Yeah, we get that. Mike and I. Yeah.
And we understand their need for it, but my dealers can do that. And you talked about the dealers, that knowledge. So I spend a lot of time. We are very, very lean. I run a very lean company because also when times are good, you do great, and when times are bad, you're still okay.
Yeah.
I needed to base this company that no matter what happens, we're good.
We're good.
And we're in that place right now.
Yeah.
But we actually are far more responsive. When I took over, we had like 6 weeks of phone messages that had not been answered.
Wow.
Yeah. But we normally, if it's more than 24 hours, it'd be a shock that we do the contact us online, and we respond very quickly. We're getting some really good comments back because of that.
That's great. David, what is your candid view of the audio world landscape today?
I still think overall as an industry, it's a very dysfunctional industry. I see the panic sales from the manufacturer's point of view. I see I see a huge class difference. I'll call it a class difference between the good dealers and the bad dealers.
Yes.
And it was kind of like when I was in manufacturing, it was the people who didn't want to buy CNC machines to manufacture. It's too expensive. That automation is bad. I'm going to keep my old manual press brake.
Yeah.
Guess what? Those companies aren't in business anymore.
Right. Right.
And we're seeing the same in dealers. The dealers are failing are not the ones who are understanding the market has changed. The things have changed. The ones that are failing are the people who don't want to change.
Right.
We're investing our time in those dealers who are a little bit more forward thinking, understanding what's going on, but also they're not propagating the bad behavior that has occurred over the past 40 years, mostly by manufacturers and dealers, of practices that put in place that didn't necessarily hurt a dealer or manufacturer. It really did end up hurting the end consumer.
Correct.
Why are prices so high? Because the costs are so high, and the bad behavior accepted is there, and we're stopping that. And it's unpopular sometimes, but we're seeing we have less customers buying more. We have less dealers buying more because they believe in good business.
Right.
I want to go to work. When a customer calls, I want to smile. I learned early, if I see a customer calling in or a dealer calling in, and there's a frown on my face, why am I doing business with that dealer? Why are they doing business with me?
Correct. That's a very good point. We see it all the time, Mike and I. We talk about, we get customers in the store and they'll tell us about their system, and we're like, wait a minute, you put those speakers in your room?
Yeah.
Why? They're guys complaining about overloading the room and there's too much bass, and it turns out that the dealer just had a pair that he wanted to get rid of.
Very common.
Yeah, and it wasn't about understanding the client's need, their environment, their associated equipment, and all the other things, because we always say, the speaker plays the room, and you've got to fit the right speaker. Sure, you might make more money selling A over B, but B might be the right product for the customer, and ultimately, you got to sell the right product to the customer because you want them to come back and you want them to be happy.
Yeah.
You don't want that same customer going somewhere else and saying, well, he sold me these and it's overloading my room, so now I need a new pair of speakers, and he's going to lose X number of dollars because, you know, they're used now.
We see it all the time.
All the time. It's not about making the sale, it's about making the right sale, and it's about selling the right, you know, so that you can sleep at night. I tell everybody, look, I always want to give the customer my honest opinion. And a lot of times people will call and say, I want to buy the XYZ, and I'll be like, you know, honestly, it's probably not worth it. Just do the ABC. And then if you want to move up at a later date, you can start with this one, you know. And a lot of times I'm underselling. I'm trying to convince them.
You're being honest.
Spend less,
Yeah.
because you'll look at the system and go, they're really not going to benefit from spending another $20,000 on X over Y. You know, the best ROI for them is this product here. And later, if they really insist, and I'll always say, Michael, hear me say,
oh yeah,
you know, if you get a big bonus at work or something happens, you got money burning a hole in your pocket, call back, and you really want to do that upgrade, we can do it. But honestly, it's not worth it. You know, so we're trying to give people the honest advice we can. I mean, I can sleep at night because I'm not selling someone I know the product isn't right.
Yeah,
for
you're
them.
not selling it just because you make the most profit
Correct.
off of it.
But we encounter that all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time. So,
and I mean, I think that
doing the right thing.
that Parasound, you know, it's a lot of bang for the buck.
a lot of bang for the buck.
I mean, it's a really great product with great specs. I mean, it looks great. I mean, I like it that you haven't spent a lot of money on some crazy cosmetics that'll catch everybody's eye. You put the money inside.
They still look great though.
They do, but I'm saying that it's not chromed and lights and bells and whistles. I mean, it's got a great classic look, you know, with the flat black and the silver, but the insides of it, I mean, that's where it really counts.
We had set up a blind demo or blind shootout.
Listening test.
Yes, and John was there, Bart was there, you were there.
I think Pat was there.
Pat the pilot was there. I don't know if Bowser was.
He was there.
Bowser,
local
Mike was
clients.
there. Yeah, local clients. He was there. And we had the Parasound against
another brand that's probably
$50,000.
three times as much money.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not sure they're in business anymore, but that's a whole other story. And everybody blindly picked this $3,200 Hint 6.
Yeah.
Blindly.
Yeah.
Over the $50,000.
And I mean, it was in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, well, let's go back and forth. Let's try it again. I mean, we knew in the first few seconds how much better it was.
Yeah. So that speaks volumes to the circuitry, to the design, and more importantly, the value that Parasound products bring. Also, the reliability. We've had budget. I'm not going to say budget. We've had lesser expensive products in the store, and they don't hold up as well as the Parasound products do to reliability.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very reliable. And I mean, you might get there's a company that has a thing that looks like a watch on the front of it.
Yes.
You know, like
it may not be reliable.
And it might not sound as good.
It may not sound as good.
And it might have like copper heat sinks
on
the side of it, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I own an A21 that I bought years ago. I mean, that's how much I believe in it.
Yeah, you have it.
A21 is still a fantastic amp. People ask about it. We're like, well, you know, if you want better, the JC5, it's kind of like we were talking about the R8, a V8 versus a V10.
Yeah.
But most people don't need more than the V8.
Right.
And but when you talk value, one thing that we have had people, when we talk about an industry with those sales, Parasound doesn't have sales. You know, we look at it saying, if I can have a sale, it means I'm overcharging you for all the rest of the time that I don't have that sale.
That's a very good point.
And so we want to make sure we get a great value with a good price up front, that we're not, you know, because we do know the industry is, if I reduce that Hint to $1,000, we'd still have customers say, when are you going to have a sale?
Right.
You know, and just, we don't want that. We want people to say it's either valuable for me or not. When I need it, when I want it, I can get it. I don't have to worry about 4 months later, a discount or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, one of the questions that everybody watching is going to want to know, can you give us any hint or clue or ideas about new things that you're working on?
but we don't release anything until
I tried, everybody.
I actually will tell you what we were working on.
Okay.
That, as we all know, the industry, in general, the space we play in, which is above the low end, below the oligarch, below the ultra high end, is slow. We know that. And so we were working, in the R&D, which is about, at this point, more than half of our budget is R&D. We were working on new parallel lines to John's stuff on the JC, different kinds of units. But with where the industry's at now, it's not wise to continue that. The great news is we are in the technology stage of performance, so we can use it to adapt in other areas. But us releasing a whole new line of products in the general space is not a good investment right now. So we pivoted that, but we took the knowledge, because we got a lot of great performance capabilities that we're doing with our top secret projects. But Darren, is there anything that you'd like to share regarding what we're working on?
Come on, Darren, spill the beans.
One thing I'll say is that we are very proud of how Parasound in the past has developed the current product line. And you mentioned about reliability, and the trick with reliability is slow circuit refinement throughout the years. And so not only were the JC amplifiers, a product of a lot of knowledge from JC and a lot of experience from him, but even within that product itself, they refined it over the course of a long time. So the circuits are not first stab circuits. They're well-known circuits that are bulletproof. And they're known to have not only great sound quality, but that sound quality has been refined, and you can really get fine-tuned when you have so much experience with the circuit. So I lead with that because I want to make it clear that nothing currently that we're working on are replacements for the current lineup. We love the product lineup that we have. We're proud of it. The A100 is one of the best amplifiers I've ever heard in my life. I have a pair. I love them. They're some of John's best work. And we're really looking forward to moving forward with that. Then you have the M250, which is essentially a downsized JC1 Plus.
Okay.
It is a wonderful amplifier that comes in a smaller package, and so we're really happy to release that last year, and it's just a wonderful product as well. So we're not looking to change directions when it comes to the current product offerings.
I understand. I would say, I'm just throwing out ideas. A 2-box preamp with a separate power supply to go with the JC1 Plus and the 100s would be an interesting idea. Upgrading the Hint 6 with a Ethernet Rune capable module DAC thing, so you don't need a separate streamer. You can just hook in an Ethernet cable would be a good idea, or upgrade to the Hint 6. Aside from that, maybe a Class A integrated would be really interesting. There is a demand for that type of product. So there's a few ideas to think about based on what we hear and see our customers asking us for, that you may want to think about. So I'll throw that out there as ideas. You could even, down the road, offer a 2-box phono stage as well to go with the JC1 Pluses and the 100s.
Yes.
And because your existing phono stage is fantastic. It is one of the best values in high-end audio, period, full stop.
Yeah,
it's really,
JC3
really
Plus.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That phono stage.
One of our highest sellers.
One of your best sellers?
Oh yeah, it's once we drop the price, Absolute Sound has it as one, the triple dollar.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't think, when Darren came on board, he was the one who actually had us drop that price, because he said at that price it's unbeatable. You rate, you get it back up, $400 or $500. There's other stuff that could get close to it, but we think it's a phenomenal value in that range. That's fast.
Absolutely fantastic phono stage. I agree with you. I agree. Let's see, Mike. Sorry, go ahead, Darren.
So on the R&D,
yes,
we part of it is we're not just going for the performance aspect. We're doing a tremendous amount of talks. You asked about remote.
Yes.
Future remotes you will see different kinds of things because it's an essential part of the experience.
It is.
It's got to be easy to use, and it has to feel for high-end units, it has to feel substantial. You need to feel that you have something in your hand that
tactile experience.
The best remote we've ever used is hands down.
I'm gonna guess that you're gonna say that.
No, the MBL.
Oh, MBL, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, it's round and it's got a dial, and you use it for the volume control.
Yeah,
oof.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, except if you drop it, you'll break your toe.
Yeah,
it weighs like 10 pounds,
and it'll survive.
And yeah, you won't, but it will.
Now, at the other end of the spectrum, we've had a manufacturer that wants you to use your phone as the remote control.
Yes,
that's the worst.
Yeah, and this goes back to the whole argument of we didn't survey the market because every customer we said, well, it doesn't come with a remote. You have to get your phone, launch the app, go into this page. I mean, to adjust the volume, and they're like, forget it. There's no way. I mean, you get the older guys in the like me, and you get into fumbling and they can't see and they don't know how to find the app. Meanwhile, they're deaf by now because it's blasted from the song that's 12 dB higher recorded.
Well, tell them the story you told me, the analogy of these modern electric cars where you're trying to turn on the windshield wipers.
Oh, like my daughter's Tesla?
I didn't want to say a name.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you have to touch the screen. You have to go to like car and you have to go here. I mean, to put on the wipers, it's, it's a pain,
What we've seen is we do think there's a place for phones. Mm-hmm. Because we don't want the remote. We also don't like remotes with 600 buttons on them.
Agreed.
Yeah,
agree.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
VAC. That's
the VAC is simple. It's volume up, volume down, mute. That's really all you need. Because if you're going to change sources, you're going to get up anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's what my theory is. Yeah.
Right. So that's the simpler it is, the nicer that is, and then your phone can be used for adjustments. One of the things the industry does not have is and it's not every user. Even on a phone, some people want a very simple interface to say, I might want some small changes, and I'll use my phone for that, or go to but there's also advanced users who do want that ability. One of the things that we're looking to do is to say, how do we get subjectivists and objectivists all on the same page? Because it's rare they ever agree on one unit because it's one or the other. And how do we get things that allow different levels of audiophiles or users to interact? And especially, hey, my phone may not even be in the room. I don't want my phone in the room. I don't want to be bothered. I'm relaxing. I'm
good point.
That's a really good point.
Good point.
Yeah. And if we had let's just say, not really, but it's because I don't do AVRs. I have an app that is just so hard to change volumes, and if I have multiple speakers, it's just too hard. So we don't even use it because it takes 2 minutes just to get your system going to what you want. Instead of an easy, I want to listen. Boom, I'm on.
Yeah.
But I like your idea of the remote having some substance to it, to look good, to feel good in your hand. I think that's the experience. I think that's important.
100%.
And it actually has to look okay also, so that in my room, one of the things when we talk about performance, and Darren alluded to it, is not just the amp or the speakers or whatever, it's the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that really starts with, can I customize, when I buy it, through what do I get what I'm looking for? Does it fit the ambiance and the decor of the room that I want? And for us, we're not bright and flashy. We don't need a car in our living room or listening area. What we want is something that looks great, but doesn't consume the room. It just provides tremendous sound in that room, and it looks good if you look at it.
Yes.
I love it to say it's beautiful when I see it, but it's not the first thing I see when I'm in the room.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Now, I'm certainly not an engineer, but I'd like to ask Darren this question. Does Class D amplifiers, and since we're going down a rabbit hole, let's really go down the rabbit hole. Does Class D amplifiers make it easier to integrate DSP? into an integrated amplifier, or is it irrelevant?
It depends on the type of Class D. So there are a type of Class D that are known as power DACs.
Mm-hmm.
These Class Ds actually have an FPGA as their heart, and the FPGA creates the PWM for the output stage. That's opposed to the more classical Class D, in which you have some sort of comparator that is creating the PWM for the output stage. So that would be an analog, fully analog Class D. So in the case of having the power DAC, you could actually have an FPGA that also has DSP processing in that very chip itself. And if that's the case, then it could be an all-in-one solution where you have a digital input, DSP processing, and then a modulator to create your PWM for your output stage. So it acts as the DAC, it acts as the DSP, and it acts as the power amp all in one. There are large compromises to this design. It sounds really sweet, like as far as on paper, but beginning of my career, I actually was focused on designing power DACs. And I'm currently have moved away from them due to limitations that they have.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was, as we go into more and more lifestyle environments, and Mike and I see it here all the time in Florida, we're constantly going into condos, modern condos with, very hard surfaces everywhere.
Yeah. Pardon the
pardon the thunderstorm here. It's
we are
thunderstorm on December 11th in Florida. Rick, did you order this up?
I did.
Okay. The hurricane coming too? Okay.
I mean, we do have sound suppression on, but it takes a second.
Yeah, that's what you're hearing in the background. Is we're having a bad thunderstorm today. But I was just wondering if that was something that we could incorporate into amplifier designs, was more room DSP equalization to help deal with some of these hostile environments that we're installing systems into. So it was just a curiosity question.
Yeah, and it certainly can help with that. So I do believe that power DACs are a great solution for the lower end of the market, as far as integrated Bluetooth speakers, that kind of product, lifestyle products. Power DACs are a great solution for that product. As far as world-class power performance, not so much, in my opinion.
Got it. David, I'm going to put you on the hot seat for a second. Give me your opinion of Bose buying Macintosh.
It's more from what the dealers have talked about. So I'll do that. That way I can disqualify myself out.
Okay. What I've heard, what I've been told. Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough.
Right. It's what I've been told is some of the things that they've talked about and what they're looking to do. Macintosh may have already tried in the past. So some of and have not been able to penetrate.
Okay.
It's the similar to other companies I dealt with in the ERP world, when a company gets bought and sold so many times, it's hard to have, it normally loses something in the transition. Just like in Parasound, we gained something, but we lost something because it's a different company.
Right.
And that just happens. That's a reality of this.
Yeah, I think I counted 6 times they've been bought and sold in the last whatever number of years.
It doesn't affect our world that much, although it's actually a pickup for us because we're seeing some Macintosh people. Like, we just had a guy who has a 275, and instead of sticking Mac on everything, he just went with a JC3 Plus and most likely can get JC2 BP.
Nice.
So I think some people, it's losing some of its luster to other people.
Yeah.
But we don't know the conditions of it. What we do know is it's led to more business for us, so I'd say it's a good thing.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I think their whole sales strategy is stuck in 1970, 1980. They need it
past.
Yeah.
And so that brings up one good thing. We've talked about it, our focus program. Parasound is not a huge company, and we are diverse. We've got little custom pieces, or little the Z Custom smaller line. We've got our let's call it more the budget 2-channel. We've got distributed audio. We've got the high end, the mid end. So we've got many things.
Yeah.
And we have 26 products. Not including color and voltage differences.
Wow.
But, for dealers, that's really hard for them. Most dealers don't have all that aspects to their business.
Correct.
I mean, your customer does not walk into your retail store looking for a $149 phono.
Correct. That's right.
Yes.
That's not the market. So what we've done, and when you have Macintosh, they want you to carry everything. You've got to be a Macintosh store.
Right.
Which has worked because they're a big brand in a lot of things.
Right.
But our position with our dealers is different. I want my dealers to be passionate about it. You talked about selling the right thing. If a dealer had one thing of Parasound, let's say they love the JC3 Plus, they just sell vinyl.
Yeah.
They don't have to sell the rest of it. They can be mad at everything else. I want to make sure I have dealers who are passionate and sell the right thing of Parasound to the right customer. And I think the Macintosh model and many manufacturers' model of you must have our complete lineup and sell a certain amount is not necessarily the way of the future.
Correct.
To me, it's passionate people who know what they're selling and sell it well when it applies the best. That's really, and when you hit the Bose, I think you're going to see more of that pressure. Now that you have Bose Macintosh, now you got to carry lifestyle products and other stuff in your high-end store.
Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I had one dealer tell me, I said, how do you differentiate Macintosh from the rest of your equipment? He said, well, when people walk in the door, I said, you go right for high-end audio and left for Macintosh. That was pretty funny.
We can't guarantee anything. Just like with us, we had lots of people predict what's going to happen.
Right.
So all I can say is what's happened so far is it led to an upturn in business for us.
That's good. That's very, very good. Rick, do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we've talked about a lot of things. I just wanted to say that, perception is reality, especially in high end. And people see something or they hear something from their friends and they say that's the way to go. They might overlook other things. But, Parasound, I think, is a really great product that people shouldn't immediately dismiss as being high end. I mean, they make some high end stuff. They make some other lower stuff. They make some stuff targeted for home theater and lifestyle and things like that. But in our store, the things that we carry here, I'd put this Parasound equipment up against anything that we've got in here.
Those JC1 Pluses are amazing in our store.
I think we have to change the perception that, Parasound, it needs to be here. It belongs in our store and it belongs in high-end dealer stores.
Agreed.
I know the circuit topology in there and what goes inside of it, from talking to John Curl. And, it's really got a lot of great stuff under the hood, like they say.
Yes.
So that's the main thing I'd like our viewers to understand is, this is up there with the very best stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah. Run a very lean company. We could be charging $20,000 for the JC1 Plus, and it would still be a value, not the value that it is.
Right.
So part of it is we want a good living, but we want to make sure we expose as many people to high-end audio.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons we have all the lines, because we want to be able to have a journey that says, hey, let's say I love vinyl, and I start with maybe a Z Phono XRM or Z Phono, and I want a little better. I can go to JC3 Junior, and I can go to JC3 Plus.
Yes.
Take you along your range. In our high-end stuff, there's very little for performance that's going to outproduce our high-end items.
Yep.
It may, as you said, it may be flashier, but it's not necessarily going to sound better. And in many cases, we believe ours still sounds better than products 2, 3, 4, 5 times our price.
Extremely well engineered.
Yeah,
extremely well
I agree.
engineered.
Yes.
Mike, what about you?
I love the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I can say. When we first got it in, and of course I'd heard it prior,
Yeah.
but man, hearing it on some of the systems in the
Yeah, I
shop
know.
just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Truly,
Yeah.
it's incredible stuff. It's
Yeah.
really good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I think we went pretty deep.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I love the stuff. I think it's outstanding.
You know, one of the things I like about Parasound is that you don't have, you know, change-itis. You're not changing your models every year.
Yes.
You know, or every 2 years or 18 months or whatever. There's nothing more frustrating for customers that are building a system and all of a sudden it changes and there's all new models that come out. And they like consistency. And the companies that have the most loyal following, that seem to do the best, are the ones that have consistency in their product lines. It doesn't mean that they don't introduce new products, but it means that they're not changing every 12 to 24 months and coming out, you know. And I've asked them about this. I've said, why are you doing this? Well, we have to stay ahead of AudioGone. They all consider AudioGone the big threat, because they'll see their products on AudioGone for a new price. And they call it the new MSRP when somebody puts it on there. And instantly their only reaction is, we got to come up with a new model to combat this. So they kind of churn and burn their own product life cycles. And I think it's a very small-minded view to be doing that. I think you're better off to come out with a line of products and let it mature for 5, 6, 8, 10 years, so that the market gets to really know and appreciate and trust. Otherwise, it's like trying to catch a falling knife, right? You just don't know when the new version is going to come out.
And you feel betrayed. You say, well, I just bought it, and now you came out with this new thing.
Exactly.
Now, what am I going to do now?
Exactly. Exactly.
But they're seeing that's that iPhone. They're seeing, you know,
exactly.
Really,
it's a good point.
I used to get every iPhone. I'm like, I finally go, why am I keep buying this phone that's, you know, 0.1% better than the previous?
That's true.
And if the other thing is, if our price is good to start, if we give a great price up front, AudioGone is not as impactful because it's still a phenomenal deal before, you know, as it is.
Correct.
And now I know, kind of like cars, but I know what I'm getting. I've got a warranty on it. I've got dealer support that way. So we really think we're not seeing the downward pressure in AudioGone anymore since we've cleaned everything up.
That's good.
There used to be a lot of sales also, which also killed everything because people would have to wait. So they always thought, well, if you don't value it right the first time, you generate consumer sentiment that says I can get a better deal somewhere.
Right.
And we want to make sure we do it right off the bat.
That's good. That's very, very good.
And by keeping the pricing lean, the pricing trim for the Parasound, then a customer could say, well, I can take some of this money and buy a better speaker then.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can buy room treatments. I can buy better
cables, Rick.
Better cables.
How about vinyl?
Vinyl.
Of that, we actually have a couple other hidden, it's one of those of getting the word out. But
right.
We do have a couple other programs that are not necessarily Parasound corporate helpful, but consumer and dealer helpful. And that's our Direct Match and Dream Swap program.
Yes, excellent programs. Yep.
And so Direct Match is, instead of, going all over the place trying to find that A21 used item that you have, we do have lots of dealers who have
an A21 used. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what customers do is they go to our website on the program and they say, here's what I want to pay for it.
Yep.
And here's what I'm willing to accept. We've had a couple people say, hey, I don't care if the faceplate is scratched or not. I just want it. It's going to be put away in a rack, and I want it for this price.
Yeah.
We put that out to all of our dealers, and then if a dealer says they have one and will meet that delivered price, so the customer should say, if I'm saying, whatever, $2,000, that's what I expect to write a check for or give a credit card for, not that plus freight, not that plus whatever it might be.
Yeah.
By doing that, the dealers, and if there's a local one, of course, that dealer is going to get it so they can go in, pick it up, check it out.
Yeah.
But the expectation is the customer's ready to buy. They've done their research. I want it. If I can get it for here, I'll get it.
Yeah.
but it allows my dealers to process things through and to take trades,
Yes.
which the Dream Swap program is, which is I can now buy a new unit, but I know up front what I'm going to get.
Yes.
And the benefit is that you get something that you have a dealer, and we don't have 500 dealers anymore. We've got about 100 dealers. So, someone who's in good business, they're reliable, and they're going to get rated. And so we rate people at the end of the process that says, how are they to do business with?
Right.
So we make sure our dealers are also supplying the kind of service that they want.
Yep.
So that's something, and they've all, so far, everyone who's done it has rated it a 10 out of 10, both dealers and consumers.
Perfect. That's why I call you the breath of fresh air, David, to the high-end audio industry.
We think it will help us in sales in the long run because we have dealers who have loyalty back and dealers who stay in business.
Yes.
Remain profitable.
That's very
you can't
true.
stay in business if you're not making money.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Rick, anything else?
No, I think we've gone over everything.
Yes.
The technical aspects of it, the performance of it, how well it works with other things. I think we've covered just about everything.
Absolutely. Darren, David, Mike, you got anything?
Can I throw one more thing in?
Sure.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Only because I had a customer reach out to me with a misunderstanding. There is a urban myth about our warranty policy.
Okay. Fire away.
And that's important to a lot of people.
Okay.
Warranties happen at the time of sale. They don't. When we bought Parasound, if you had an existing warranty, your warranty did not go away. If a dealer is no longer a dealer, but they were when you an authorized dealer, but they were when you bought the unit, you still have that warranty. Even though, for instance, we don't do business with Crutchfield, but if you bought it under Crutchfield, under the warranty conditions, you still have that.
Yeah.
So people were thinking Crutchfield's no longer, I bought from them, so I lost my warranty.
Right. And that brings me to a good point. The manufacturer is the one that issues the warranty. We get so many people that call us and say, oh, the such and such amplifier isn't working and it needs to get some repair work. We can help you.
Exactly.
Yes, but we do not issue the warranty. We're the dealer. The warranty is with the manufacturer. And the analogy I use is if you went to Home Depot and you bought a dishwasher and 3 years later, assuming you had a 3-year warranty, 3 years later, the dishwasher breaks, you don't go back to Home Depot. You go to the manufacturer of the dishwasher to get it repaired. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure Home Depot can help you, give you a phone number as we can help people. But ultimately, we don't offer or extend or provide the warranty. That is done from the manufacturer.
A little different with us, only because so many no problems found with audio, especially separates.
The dealers should absolutely send it to the dealer.
Yeah.
We'll dissect it. And many times, Mike is right. We've found it works fine in our system in the store, and it's something in their system. It
Correct.
could be. We have found a cable that had a loose connection and was X number of dB down on one channel, and they were blaming the amplifier. It was actually a cable issue.
Yep.
Yes, we can definitely help in that regard. But if it is truly my house was hit by lightning and this thing went up in smoke and I need to get it fixed or whatever, repaired, that it's definitely a manufacturer offers and provides a warranty.
Well, you love putting the excluded items, because if you got hit by lightning, that wouldn't be a warranty.
Okay,
That's
there
a
we go.
repair.
Is that the what they call the act of God? I forget what it is.
I gotta correct you on that.
Yeah.
Also, they'll have 40 people throwing in their amps.
That's true. There is a legal term for that act of God. I forget what it's called.
It is.
Force majeure. Force majeure. That's what
our dealers are such an important part of the ecosystem. They know hopefully they know the customer, they know the components, they can help troubleshoot.
Yes.
Because anytime someone has to send something back for warranty, no one wins.
Correct.
Because they're without their unit. It's frustrating. And I would say because we used to have 30% no problems found when we got here.
Wow.
They'll swear. There's a lot of people who have separates who don't really understand separates.
Yeah.
Even me, I set up I brought my stuff to the new house, set it up, and I had placed a power cord over an RCA. And guess what? I was getting a little bit of hum. Well, and I had some dirty lines, but what I had to troubleshoot it to correct that. And dealers can do that, and it really endears them. There's a reason dealers charge the money they do, because there's a lot of support needed to really be that kind of dealer for a 2-channel system.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And we have Rick here to do all our technical stuff.
Yeah, Rick handles all that stuff.
What?
We didn't tell you?
No.
Okay.
We're going to talk after this.
Well, I have a really interesting question. I want to hear about your A10 fighter days.
What, my A10 fighter days? That's a long time ago.
I know, but still, I mean, flying the what do they call it? The Warthog? Is that what they call it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed some, but it's one of those. It was such a fun experience. I loved flying that plane. We had different sets of rules. I flew what's called VFR most of the time, especially over in Korea. And you could fly low. We weren't the fastest plane in the world, but the Gatling gun, the GAU-8, was an amazing gun to fire. We got to do that almost every mission. Dropping bombs, firing rockets. It was a great time. I actually deployed over to Korea when the first Gulf War started, the Shield or Desert Shield. Back afterwards, and with the Korean threat, we never really deployed a full squadron out of Korea. They'd always keep it there, so they came from other spots.
Wow, very exciting. And is the A10 is it a single pilot, dual pilot?
There's one A10 dual, but it's up in at least there used to be one up at Fairchild
for training.
No training. First flight solo. It was just a demo. Yeah, everything is single seat. First flight is solo.
Okay, very, very cool. Because I'm a pilot, so I know your VFR and your IFR and everything, and I fly all the time. Do you still fly, David?
No, when I got out, I went into family manufacturing and just never ran a plant. Just when you're running a plant, you don't have time to go to the Guard or the Reserve or anything else. So
wow.
I was going to fly Wisconsin Guard because they flew A-10s. I've flown the F-16 a few times. I just was not a fan of the plane.
Right.
I'm tall with low blood pressure.
Right.
Which is not what you want to do when you're fighting true air-to-air.
Right.
So air-to-ground was much better.
Did you do a lot of instrument flying, or was it mostly VFR?
Mostly VFR whenever we could. I had a couple spatial disorientations.
Oh,
with,
yes.
bad weather.
It's real. Spatial disorientation is real. But I don't want to bore everybody. I could talk to David all day and talk to him about NDBs and ADFs. And
you can do that at the end of the show.
Okay, all right, never mind. Oh, well, Darren, David, we really appreciate your time today, and we wish you guys continued success at Parasound. You guys are definitely, with John, the driving forces behind the company, and we look forward to new things coming out from you guys and continued success for you.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.